This is an RNZ podcast.
The government's plan to address rough sleepers and beggars on our city streets. Move them on.
We also need to reclaim our main streets and town centres for the enjoyment of people who live here, people who visit, people who work here.
But where will they go? And are the right support systems in place?
All we're doing is literally shifting people down the road, and particularly their needs down the road as well.
Kia ora, ko Giles Dexter aho. Ane te purongo tōranga pū mō tēnei wiki. Welcome to Focus on Politics. 2026 is set to be Auckland's year. The new convention centre, major events, the city rail link. There was just, the government said, the problem of antisocial behaviour downtown. Back in November, ministers said it was something the government was definitely looking at. There were just some things that needed sorting first.
Obviously, when you consider them, you've got to make sure that you've got the right support structures in place to support people as well.
Well, getting rid of undesirable behaviour, not the desirables, that's what we're focused on. It's antisocial behaviour which we're concerned about.
You're not just going to pick up someone that's in a vulnerable position and drop themselves off in another vulnerable position. You're actually going to take them to a place of safety. That's the whole idea of it.
What the government has come up with is largely unchanged from what they were talking about in November. Justice Minister Paul Goldsmith says a small group of people are causing mayhem and need to be moved on.
New Zealanders are fair-minded people. We're always focused on helping those in need, but we also need to reclaim our main streets and town centres for the enjoyment of people who live here, people who visit, people who work here, and want to be able to work and operate in a safe and welcoming environment, and that's not what we've been seeing on many of our streets.
The big surprise was that the move-on orders won't just be rolled out in Auckland, but nationwide. But Auckland has become the poster child for the problem and the response. There's been the boosted beat patrols, the new downtown police station, the retail crime crackdown. This, then, is something to be seen in the round, or as ministers, police and business supporters on hand at the press conference called it,
what we're doing is giving the police an extra tool.
What the proposal does is it gives us another tool.
This is an additional tool in the toolbox.
This is another, if you like, another tool in the kit.
This is very much another key tool in the toolbox.
This is just one tool.
For a law and order government, it's an easy win and one likely to find support with its base. A visible problem and a quick, obvious tool to fix it. Viv Beck, who heads up downtown Auckland's business association Heart of the City, was there at Sunday's announcement to quickly provide that relieved business reaction.
The one thing we do still have concerns about is antisocial behaviour. That continues to come up from businesses, as ministers have said, but also from people who live here. We've got grandmothers and other people coming to us raising concerns, and we believe this is the piece that will actually round out the total solution. And we have to be a city now that grows, that attracts investment, and that is aspirational, one that looks after our people, but actually is a great place to invest and do business. So we are happy to have been heard on behalf of the business community in central Auckland.
The press conference took place at the Queen's Arcade shopping centre. Its property manager Ian Wright says security guards and more beat police have made a difference, and he sees this as the icing on the cake.
We had a gentleman that was around living on the street in Commerce Street around the corner. He was there for months and he wouldn't accept help, but now he's accepted help and he's obviously been taken back into care and he's getting the care that he needs. So I don't see it as displacement of the problem. That's not a solution. It's very much about holding people to account, drawing this line in the sand and saying we've actually got a right to be here too, the people, our visitors, and we want it to be safe and secure. And I don't think that's too much to ask.
The arcade is a stone's throw from Britomart, Commercial Bay and the Queen's and Prince's Wharves. And it was those cruise terminals that were front of mind for the Prime Minister when he went on News Talk ZB on Monday morning to talk about why the government was doing this.
The bigger issue is like, you know, Chuck and Mary coming in for their once-in-a-lifetime trip to New Zealand on a cruise ship, walking around downtown Auckland, getting intimidated because someone's standing on the door, is sitting on the doorstep, of a shop they're trying to get into, threatening, shouting at them, abusing them. Right now, it doesn't trigger an offence under other pieces, but by putting this in place, that helps.
Assuming Chuck and Mary don't have rough sleepers where they're from, they may wonder where they've all gone. It'll be up to the individual constable to decide how long a move-on order lasts for, up to 24 hours, and what a reasonable distance is. A block, 2 blocks, Grey Lynn, New Lynn, it's all still to be determined.
Now, of course, that'll mean different things in different parts of the country. If you're in Napier, if you're in Whangarei or in central Auckland, it'll be different. Maybe a kilometre up the road, it may be outside the business district. And you might say, well, does that just shift the problem somewhere else? Of course, the law applies everywhere in the country, and so if you are told to move on and you go up the road and you start doing the same behaviours again, well, then you'll be subject to another move-on order until the message gets through that society doesn't tolerate these activities.
It won't just be rough sleepers or beggars subject to the move-on orders. It'll apply to anyone displaying disorderly, disruptive, threatening or intimidating behaviour. The orders can also be used on people who are obstructing or impeding someone entering a business, breaching the peace, or displaying behaviour indicating an attempt to inhabit a public place. It'll be up to the individual officer to decide what support a person needs, if any. The Police Minister, Mark Mitchell, says police will use discretion.
It's not a huge group of people, but there's a group of people out there that choose to come in and cause trouble on the streets, choose to actually create issues for other people in our CBDs, ignore the fact that they're putting themselves at risk as well, and ignore the police and everyone else that tries to engage with them, other government agencies that try to engage with them. We've now got something that will formalise it, that will actually, hopefully, get them engaging with those services and actually fix those issues. And at the same time, we won't have people living out on the streets. And I don't think any Kiwi, any fair-minded Kiwi in our country want to see people out living on our streets.
Carolyn Young from Retail NZ sees it as a partial solution, a circuit breaker, but she's unsure it can work as a long-term solution.
What they're trying to do, I guess, is give businesses a break and hope that people don't come back really quickly. It's obviously untested because we don't know how it will play out, but we do know that Minister Brown and Minister Mitchell are doing some great work in the Auckland CBD where they're really driving a wide range of people that are coming together every month, and they're driving some challenging conversations around what do we need to do to help people and support them. And working harder in that cross-agency space will be the blueprint of what we need to do behind the scenes, and maybe just moving people on, but giving them those spaces where they can go to, where they can get a cup of tea and a hot meal and somewhere to sleep and a kind ear to talk to around what options and solutions they might have going forward, because the guys in the social agencies do amazing work and they know who to connect you up with and what support people in those situations need.
Green Party co-leader and Auckland Central MP Chloe Swarbrick has been calling for that housing and wraparound support. Instead, she says the government is choosing to punch down.
The government ignored its own official advice. It ignored social services, experts, community leaders to cut off access to emergency housing, and over a series of budget decisions, slash support for wraparound services. Off the back of that, communities have received a tidal wave increase in homelessness. Understandably, businesses and communities don't know what to do when it comes to responding to the issue that they are seeing visibly, both rural and urban. And I just think that with the government today announcing, despite the pushback that they have already received after flying this flag for the last few months from community leaders, from social service providers about what the actual solutions are here, that what they are offering people is false hope premised on some of the most punitive, nasty kind of politics that we've seen in a long time.
Labour's Deputy Leader Carmel Sepuloni is also opposed.
It's cruel. They are offering no solutions for the New Zealanders, the Aucklanders that are homeless, that do not have the housing that they need, offering no solutions for those that are currently living in poverty, no solutions for those who have mental health conditions or addiction problems. Instead, they're trying to say out of sight, out of mind, move them on, so certain groups of New Zealanders don't have to see it, and that's not okay.
What she couldn't say is whether Labour would repeal it, lest Labour give National a soft-on-crime stick to whack it with, which Mark Mitchell ended up doing anyway with a press release on Wednesday. The bill still has to go through the usual legislative process. That's where Labour wants to put the pressure on. But it turns out that's also where the police will learn about what exactly they've been asked to do, says Superintendent Sunny Patel, the Auckland District Commander.
It's really too soon to go into the detail. What we will create is we'll create operational guidelines for our staff, just like we did with the successful gang legislation that came out. We will be doing that for move-on orders as well, so it's too early to go into the process.
He says with more beat teams, the chances of responding are greater and police will help people get the support they need. That hasn't convinced the Police Association. Its president, Steve Watt, told Midday Report there were still many issues to be ironed out.
There's no doubt that it will have a drain on policing resources. It means that, potentially someone won't have a cop turn up to their burglary, or they'll be delayed because they're having to deal with this issue.
Emails from November show Mark Mitchell's office expressing concern that police could end up picking up the work of other agencies and stretching their resources. But by Tuesday, those concerns didn't seem to matter, and Mark Mitchell was labelling the union out of touch for suggesting as much.
Police have still got often an immediate response role in terms of being able to triage what support is needed by these people. But my point is that you should not have two police constables sat in the Auckland Emergency Department for an entire shift looking after someone with a mental health issue. We need to have a mental health response, and we're making very good steps in terms of that. In terms of the rough sleepers, no, police are not the lead agency on that, but they have the skills and the training and the powers to be able to deal with these people who often have mental health issues.
Yes, but the police and the police association say this is mission creep. Suddenly the police have now got a new thing they have to do.
And I totally reject that. That is not true. The police officers right now often in a frustrating position where they're trying to deal with rough sleepers. They get blamed for all the antisocial issues associated with rough sleepers. They don't have the powers to be able to deal with that.
It's not homelessness that's being criminalised, the government insists. It's the breach. Anyone breaching a move-on order will face a fine of up to $2,000 or up to 3 months imprisonment. Professor Neville Pearce, co-chair of Otago University's Housing and Health Research Programme, says that'll make it even harder for people to access private accommodation.
Picking up fines while homeless is very counterproductive to getting a house, because now you have outstanding debt to the government because homeless people can't pay it. But it does mean that you fail any kind of credit check, and it makes it more expensive to provide the housing. So it's getting ourselves, the move-on orders are really another nasty link in a vicious loop.
There are options out there. The government says it's investing in housing and mental health support. Ministers pointed to more money for housing first places, not all of which have been taken up. It's a programme Downtown Christian Ministries in Wellington is part of. Chief Executive Natalia Cleland says it's evidence-based and it works. But there's still many that don't have a clear pathway to housing. She's worried the move-on powers will increase the number of people who are not visibly homeless.
People are in central areas because that's where other services are. So, for example, they are in CBDs because their work and income office is also here. They're in public areas because their probation service is here, because the food bank is here, because their health service is here. So I suspect that for some people, that actually they'll have less access to those health and other community resources because they might be pushing a trolley, and will that be an intent to sleep in a public place, or will they be let on their way? So I think there'll be it'll make engaging with people more challenging.
Kickback director Aaron Hendry, who works with at-risk and homeless youth, says the resources groups like his need still aren't there. He's particularly concerned that children as young as 14 will be subject to the move-on orders.
Look, that really, really worries us. We support tamariki sometimes as young as 9 who are experiencing homelessness, often coming from really complex situations where their whole whānau are struggling and needing support. And the idea that police will just be moving children on without, intensively providing support to those kids is really concerning. We also know that the support structures are not in place to adequately respond to these children's needs. And so, look, it's concerning to us. We are concerned around what is looking like a really clear street to prison pipeline with the lack of resources invested in to ensure that people are looked after.
Auckland City Commissioner Helen Robinson says everyone wants safety, but this will cause more harm and distress.
All we're doing is literally shifting people down the road, and particularly their needs down the road as well. Good law and order in our country means every person needs a home and they need appropriate support. And that's where we stand with this government and every government in promoting a society where everybody can live well.
Just like businesses, these are the people who see the problem firsthand, day in, day out. But unlike businesses, they don't feel the government has listened to them with this latest announcement. All are in agreement that nobody wants people sleeping on our streets. But critics of the powers say fixing the problem will take a lot more than just telling it to move. That was Focus on Politics. Make sure to follow us on your favourite podcast app or seek out RNZ's Politics NZ podcast feed and subscribe there. I'm Giles Dexter. Thanks for joining us. Mā te wā.